Okay, so today we're going to be talking about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Your mind is the creator of reality. You know, we could go all the way into physics, metaphysics, philosophy, New Age, all that, but what we're really going to just talk about is your own life, your own experience, and how you can start implementing this now and improve your life by being transformed by the renewing of your mind, as the Bible says. So let's get to it. I want you to understand that you are not your mind, you are consciousness. And so what you have happening that is kind of an autopilot of your mind that is looping and driving you bananas, and not only that, it's creating the same reality over and over again. You are taking your past programming and projecting it into the future, and there is only one way to stop that, and that is to become consciousness and recognize that you are not your mind. So here are some tips to understand how you can start to do that, and the easiest way I've learned how over the last 20 years and 15 of them coaching. And so let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing we have to recognize is that we are not our mind. And what do I mean by that? If you really pay attention to the fact that there is an autopilot type thing going on when you are triggered emotionally. And so what they call that in a lot of modalities of understanding consciousness is basically understanding that you are on a journey of understanding that your triggers are the catalyst to see your unconscious programming. And so they teach that in a lot of things. It's called catalyst integration or, shadow work. In shadow, think about that. When we are unconscious to something, it would be a shadow. And when we are conscious, it would be light, right? And so consciousness is light, love and light. Love is the highest level of consciousness. And so we can understand through this that we are having a program running that when triggered, just like a plane that's in autopilot, if there's turbulence, the plane knows how to course correct. There's a trigger, the turbulence, and the plane knows what to do. And so we can look at that in our own lives. When there's a trigger, our mind knows what to do. But what if our programming is outdated? Or it was created when we were a child, and now we would think that's absolutely ridiculous that we would think that's going to course correct, but it is the shadow, it is the programming that is there. And so we have to face it, we have to fix it. And the number one way of understanding is because if we're trying to see our shadow, the only way possible is through negative emotions and what the mind starts to loop, and we have to become consciousness, not stay stuck in believing that we are our mind. So we have to listen to our mind. Who's listening? And then once you get that, you'll realize I am not my mind. I'm the one watching, listening behind it. But we were so integrated with our mind that we forgot. So let's start talking about the auto programming and how we get to reprogramming. It's not that hard. We can make it simple. So let's just say it again in a different way to kind of get us to understand. Let's just say the biggest things in this reality that cause triggering that are programming from our childhood is ridiculousness in our older wise age years. And, that's definitely something that we all need to work on, because the emotional immaturity that is displaying in this reality is coming from this. So let's make an example. When I was 3, my mom was very triggered by my dad who had left her, and my parents were teenagers. So, my dad's partying, he's hanging out with the new woman, who, by the way, my mom was right, he was with, and they ended up getting married, and I have 2 sisters from that union. And so, but be with me here. At 3, My mom's banging on my dad's door. There's obviously a party going on inside, and she is furious because he was supposed to take care of me. And this is around the time that my parents got divorced. And so I really want you to know my mom didn't purposely do this. She was in her own triggered responses from rejection and abandonment and things. And it took me a long time to realize that. Doesn't mean you have to surround yourself, because if my mom hasn't done her inner work, off on another tangent, she hasn't healed her loops, she's going to continue to do the same things to me over and over again, which is the case. So we have to be careful of that. But so what she programmed me with that at that young age is when my dad wasn't answering, she was like, just talk to me, open the door. She was basically programming me with, he won't communicate with me. He is rejecting me. He is abandoning me through this whole interaction. And then the worst thing happened is, as she's screaming and they're in there laughing at her. And I remember all of this through my awakening, of course, because I wanted to dig deep into where I got some of my loops, is as we're walking away and she's screaming and crying and upset, she looks down at me real loudly and says, he doesn't even want you. And I know she was doing it to try to get my dad's reaction to open the door for at least me. But what she didn't realize she was doing is she was programming one of the most deepest issues I've had in my life, period. I only was attracted to men that didn't want me. Why? Because of my programmed loop that I created in that moment, in moments like that followed, because it's my mom's loop. So she was creating that with my father and then every man thereafter until I was taken from her. She had severe mental illness, severe belief that she was her mind, and it was taking her in bad places. And so my point here is so then now 3-year-old me created a loop. When a man rejects me, I'm feeling like he doesn't want me, the thing my mom programmed me with, right? And so then I created a loop that once I fix me, he's going to want me. And I kept doing that throughout my life with my father. To this day, I feel deeply that when a man rejects me, and it could be even the smallest little thing, I feel like I have to do something to make myself better for them to want me. And so then when I get deep into the mind, because the mind, it really holds on to things. And not to mention, I don't want to add another layer, but there's ancestral loops in here too. And so this could be a very rigid thing, but what we can do is hear it, become consciousness, and realize it's not me, so let's just go into an example of how, now that you understand my 3-year-old programming and how it was happening in my life as an adult, let's go into how I became aware of it and how I reprogrammed it, because at the end of the day, that's what we have to do. We do. And how is the key. So my awakening, because this is a deep pattern that was keeping me in the lowest levels of consciousness when it came to my life. Rejection can show up in so many ways. At work, with clients, with your kids, with everybody. And I was just walking around a rejected mess. Somebody could look at me sideways and I would have to go home and cry, because the momentum of that loop and what it was making me think about myself and consistently wanting to fix myself, because what's on the other polarity of fix yourself? There's something wrong. And so it was consistently making me think there was something wrong with me that I had to fix. And I was consistently being triggered. And as the momentum grew, as I got older, I became that loop. So as we get older, these things get much more rigid, much more consistent. At some points, you could have no breaks in the trigger. So awakening comes when you finally say, something's got to give here. And either we do one or two things on this crossroad. We start to embrace our awakening, or we check out. Drugs, alcohol, suicide, all of those things, right? And so I'm here to tell you, when it got really bad for me, I started there. And then when I started there, the universe gave me the hardest thing for that trigger. And I think this is really important to understand in our awakening. The catalyst for our awakening will be direct proportion to what it is that will serve us the best and getting rid of this devil versus angel mind stuff, right? This duality. And mine was being rejected by men. So then I got rejected by the love of my life. Yeah, that's what started my awakening. And so let me just tell you how I started to become aware of the shadow and reprogrammed it to light. And now I don't feel that rejection anymore. And oh my God, thank you, Jesus. And when it was happening, it didn't feel like a thank you, Jesus moment. It said the devil has taken over me and I'm screwed. But now in hindsight, I can say, oh, thank God that happened, because it rooted out the very thing that I was walking around openly wounded all day, every day, with a mind looping about what's wrong with me. I got to fix it. And so the way to fix it is to become pure awareness and recognize I am not my mind, and listening to your mind. Because once you realize you're not your mind, then you can listen to it, and then you realize who you really are. And that comes up a lot in spiritual awakening too. You are that pure awareness. You are consciousness. And when you start to separate yourself from those loops, and the way, unfortunately, most of the time, as we read in the Bible, all the people that went through awakening, which they call being renewed by the transforming of your mind, they screamed and cried and went through shit and finally got it, right? And so we learn through pain. So the guy that I thought was the love of my life that rejected me deeply, I'm talking about rejection. And this is like the animus, as Carl Jung said, right? Because he was a living epitome of my father. 100%. And so what I recognized, though, and it took a long time, because all of my work to fix me wasn't for me, it was for him. And that's when it became clear, when I was listening to my mind and I finally got it. Ooh, and a Taylor Swift song. Once I fix me, he's gonna miss me. Well, guess what, fool? I'm saying to myself, you fixed yourself so much, he doesn't even miss you. He doesn't even think about you. There's nothing there. And then it starts to occur and dawn on me that I'm living out a loop. A loop that isn't even true. Not to mention, once I started to get on the other side of this loop, I realized we aren't even a freaking match. Where did I get he was the love of my life? And there's the trauma bond. There it is. There's the person that rejected me, that made me grab on to fix myself so that I could get him to miss me, what never happened with my dad. Okay? And so then it gets to that strong realization that I don't want to fix me. I'm perfect just the way I am. I need to stop caring about these men or people in general that are rejecting me because they're just not meant for me. And I know we hear that so much. And this video isn't about that. It's about understanding the deep shadow and the triggers and what we do and what we attract from there. Because I'm going to keep attracting people that reject me until I heal this wound. Because the energy of that wound is what is the attractant. And so I have to break free of it. And so the only way to break free of it is bring awareness to it, because the more awareness, light, remember, consciousness is light, shadow is dark. And so the more light I brought to the loop from my conscious, pure light awareness, I saw the shadow that was playing this loop. And I'm like, wow. After everything I just told you in this video, do you get it? It's like, but you really have to create that separation to see it. And then every time you're triggered, remind yourself not to go into those patterns And I'm going to just describe to you a little bit of what displayed and how I was creating reality from that, and how it changed as I got going. But what you have to really understand is once you start to recognize, here's the trigger, I labeled it fuckboy trigger. Whatever, I'm not even judging the other person. I'm trying to say, this is the frequency that this is going to trigger in me. And then my mind is going to loop this. Once I fix me, he's going to miss me, right? He's going to want me, because it was before the Taylor Swift song. But, and then I was able to say, and then the emotionality of it started to dissipate. Because you got to remember, the emotionality, the energy is what's triggering the mind loop. The deep pain was triggering my mind to think that. And so I was very blessed. I worked on the emotions first so that I could get to the awareness part, which is, ooh, I'm triggered and I'm not going to go into this pattern. I'm going to accept that it's teaching me something, and that's the hardest part. To become aware, we can't do the reaction. And reaction in Kabbalah is the karma. It's the pattern. It's the loop. It's the reaction. So the minute you stop reacting, you're becoming aware. So there's step one. Just bringing awareness to your triggers and stop trying to project out or repeat a pattern with somebody else. When you're doing it from a triggered place, it is something that's running in the shadows that you don't want to do anymore. So the only thing you can do is start to say, okay, I'm not going to do anything when I'm triggered, period. And then you get to the second part where you're finally not doing something, and it takes a while, and you got to forgive yourself over and over again, especially in the beginning of awakening, because you're doing it even though you don't want to. And so you have to be like, okay, well, I forgive myself, better luck next time. And then all of a sudden you get to this space where it's not as provoking to go and do the things, and then you can hear the mind. Because when you're not doing the outer action, then the mind gets real intense. And that's why we do the outer action, so we can kind of avoid what's going on inside. And so once you get to that place where you can hear the mind, then you can be like, wow, 3-year-old me programmed me with some crap. Because a wise woman me is like, holy shit, I'm a CEO doing better than anybody in my home freaking town. And this dude rejected me, and I'm over here fucking crying. Bleeping crying. Okay. And then the programming, what my mom said to me, came up. And then I realized if I could repeat this, I'm going to end up like my mom. I'm not trying to diss anybody here, but I don't want to end up a mental case. And this is the key right here. So then once I got to that, how did I reprogram that? And that's the thing, is you have to get to deep acceptance, and you have to be with the energy first. Don't reprogram yourself when you're triggered, because then you create a bigger war. Because you don't believe it when you're triggered. So you wait for the trigger to pass, and then you congratulate yourself, pat on the back. I didn't do the stupid shit. And I'll explain the stupid shit. But anyway, I am literally good. And now I can see the loops. And I'm not going to repeat it, and I'm good. Now what? Because we have to be unconscious. If we had to be conscious of everything that we do in our lives, we would go bananas too. Oh, wait. Yeah, I wasn't conscious just now of my breathing. I'm about to die. I mean, we can't. So everything, a lot of it, we've heard that in science, 90% is unconscious or something even bigger. So we have to reprogram. We have to renew the mind. And we have to embed the subconscious with a new response to things. And so we start off slow with the acceptance. When you feel the deep pain, the catalyst thing that needs to happen for you to understand your shadow and what you're thinking, you let it come up, and then you say something along the lines of, yeah, that's a cool story, bro, but that's not what I want to think anymore. It can be just that easy over and over again. And then when you finally aren't triggered by it anymore, and you look at men that do that, all you're going to think is, that's just not for me. I don't want you to try to program the opposite belief. I want you to just accept that you believe that for a long time, until all of the pain and the momentum of the mind subside. And then you can create, because you're going to start attracting better people once you do this. And then your mind and your new patterns will automatically get created on your own. You meet a good guy, and then you're like, wow, men are amazing. Cute little cuddly teddy bears. They'd never, ever run from me. They're divine beings. But you can't even know that if you have that festering unconscious thing that's the attractant. And once you get that neutralized, you'll start attracting better, and then you will automatically reframe your unconscious to fit a new narrative from the new men that you're attracting and from the wise person you are, not the 3-year-old that was programmed by ancestral karma. So I hope this helps. It's about healing the momentum of the emotional trigger, the catalyst, and then really working on listening to the mind so you can catch the theme. Once I fix me, he's going to want me. What the heck? Talk about deep not accepting myself. Walking around festering wound of I'm unacceptable. That sucked. All because of a 3-year-old thing I was programmed with. And then once that momentum and that loop is uncovered, then every time it happens, you sit with it like a mother loves a child. You say, no, baby girl, it's okay. Or whatever you got to say to get the momentum subsiding, because once the momentum subsides, the loop, it just dissipates away, and then you're going to start attracting better, and you reprogram your mind yourself. And so the ways it was showing up for me when I would get triggered in that is I would stoop to their level. Even though I was this wise woman, I would get down dirty, like trying to scream at them or point out, what the heck's wrong with you? I'm trying to be good. You know, I'm not awful. I'm acceptable. I was just doing things like that to kind of prove my worth, because at a deep level, I was unacceptable. And so that was horrible. And I'm so glad when I got to stop doing that. And then you kind of move into, I'm okay just as I am. And then you can start looking around the world and, you know, stop doing comparisons. Just realize that everybody is different. You know, it's just, that's why the mind is the creator. Because once you stop this thing that I'm trying to talk about, it's like you see the world from a different place, and then you can create differently. But we're so stuck. Our perception is stuck in one belief looping that we can't even see anything else. I couldn't even see that good men existed. And then once I broke that, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many good men. Oh my God, you wouldn't even believe. It is so weird. Like, I didn't even know that existed. All right, so I hope this video really helps. This is the biggest near and dear thing to my heart. I'm a Course in Miracles student, which is a mind programming, retraining thing. The Bible is too, and I'm big into the Bible. I'm a metaphysical student. I really love this topic because the mind is everything. It's the perceiver, it's the creator, it's everything. So I hope this video helps you in some way. And if it does, please like, share, subscribe. And until next time, take care.